Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Time and Space, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Jessica Nunn.
And I'm our husband and co-host, Phillip Gilfus.
You are my award-winning husband.
I mean, I didn't win an award for being your husband.
No, but you could do. I feel like, if you entered the competition,
being your husband?
You can't win if you don't play.
That's true. Yes. No, well, you're an award-winning person as well. You didn't win an award for being my wife.
I did not, but I would have done because I'm excellent at it.
Yes. No, recently, we won. We entered a short film contest, a 48-hour film contest, where you have to write, create, edit, and submit a film in a 48-hour time window.
So husband basically got all the information he needed to write his play at 7 p.m. on a Friday, and wrote until 5 a.m.
Yeah.
on Saturday morning, and came up with a beautiful play.
And then Jessica acted in that on Saturday when it was shot.
I mostly drank beer and played with kitties, and then occasionally acted in some scenes.
And then our team on Sunday edited it and submitted it, and a couple days ago they had the award ceremony for it, for this Greensboro 48-hour, Greensboro, North Carolina.
Keeping in mind that we already knew that we'd won audience favorite for our section.
Yeah, they'd split the teams because, this is, of course, in the age of COVID, so obviously they didn't have as many teams competing as perhaps normally do, and things were a little bit different, but in all...
Don't minimalize it.
Well...
You were amazing. It was amazing.
But they didn't have as many groups, but they had two groups, and we won Group A Audience Award. And then when the judges awarded it during the award ceremony last week, we learned that Jessica won Best Actress Honorable Mention.
Yay!
We won Best Director Honorable Mention. And then we ended up winning Best Film.
Yay! So out of everybody, Philip's script was the best.
Well, it was a whole package, but yes.
It was a whole team effort, but...
Yes,
it was Philip's script.
I wrote an award-winning film. That's the point.
Yes.
So now that film will go on to 48-hour Film Palooza in 2021, wherever that's being held. And then we also got the opportunity to submit to 2 local film festivals. I guess new products, so we'll see what we do there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a sort of good start to this week. As we now are recording here at the beaches of North Carolina, awaiting the arrival of a hurricane. So,
indeed,
peak 2020.
Yeah, indeed. But it's been sunny the whole weekend, so I know there's a hurricane coming. All the weather things say there's a hurricane coming, but the weather also said it was going to be stormy all weekend, and it has not been.
I don't believe the science.
And to be no fair, and to be honest, I've been a little disappointed because I had settled myself into the mindset of just sitting out on the screened-in front porch and watching storms roll in, and I've not had that opportunity.
To celebrate your birthday.
To celebrate my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. It's tomorrow. It's not today.
Right.
But by the time you listen to it, it will have already been passed.
You'll officially be old by the time you listen to it.
I will officially be old, yes. I am well into my 40s, and my boy toy husband is still... clutching desperately onto 39
That's
for
right.
Another few months. So, there you go.
Well, speaking of getting older, we're going to be talking about children.
That's a terrible segue. That's awful.
But what do children have to do with Doctor Who? Well,
everything.
That's true.
Children have everything to do with Doctor Who. Doctor Who was created initially as a children-leaning show, shall we say. I mean, it wasn't a children's show. It's not Blue Peter or Sesame Street, but it was designed, at least, with children in mind. certainly for the openings. Possibly not in the new Who, but by then 50 years had passed, or not quite 50, but anyway. And people were like, it seems like grown-ups enjoy this too, so.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to be talking about the children's books of Doctor Who.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's many, but we're going to just be focusing on 2 in particular.
But if you know of things that we definitely need to check out, please do. We have a niece and a nephew on your side and a niece and a nephew on my side who definitely need to be educated. So if you've got some good ones that we're not talking about, let us know.
We definitely need to nerd them up.
We totally need to nerd. I mean, to be fair, the ones on my side don't need nerding up quite so badly because they're proper nerds already, but not Doctor Who nerds, and we need to fix that.
That's right. Well, first we're going to focus on the Dr. Men books that were released from 2017 to 2018. Folks may be more familiar with the original Mr. Men and Little Miss book series from Roger Hargreaves, who has since passed on. Now, were you familiar with these growing up?
I'm not sure, if I'm honest.
And I didn't look up when the peak of this was. I mean, I remember them growing up, but I don't know if I was like in the era when it was or if it was later, because I specifically remember that Arby's, which is a restaurant chain here in America, had toys, like little Mr. Men and Little Miss toys that they would give away, I guess, with their children's meal. So
okay.
I had a few in my possession at the time, and I remember owning a couple of the books in my, in my children's library, such as it was, I suppose.
And I don't remember as much from my childhood. I feel like I was more aware of them in England.
I mean, other than he passed on, then that his son, Adam, sort of continued the tradition, and that Adam Hargreaves is the one who did the books we're talking about. So,
but yeah, I feel like most of my knowledge comes from England and being a teacher there, even though I was a secondary teacher, so of course my kids didn't read them, but they were part of the culture, and so. And I feel like the first time we saw these was in London.
Yeah.
Is that correct? The first time we realized these existed.
I feel like either when we were at the Who shop in London, or maybe I was just looking at Doctor Who Weekly magazine or something like that.
I feel like the first time we saw them, or the first time I saw them maybe, was in the Doctor Who museum in London. And I was like, we need these. And they were like $1,000 for the whole set. And we were like, we do not need these that badly. And then you can't decide which one you want. And so you walk away. And then you came up with the idea of getting one
per month
last year.
Right.
2019. The good old days. And so we got, 1 through 12 once a month. And we've talked about them on here. So,
but we're sort of going to talk about them collectively.
We're going to talk about them again. Suck it up.
It's just like all entertainment of 2020 to 2021.
This
it's going to be rerun. Yeah.
Sorry.
There's no new productions anymore.
Because we can't be in the same room together, which has nothing to do with coronavirus. It's just because we're bloody sick of each other at this point.
But of course, they released Doctor First through Doctor 13 with the only addition of Doctor 10th Christmas Surprise hardcover. At least that's how I bought it.
Which I think is wildly appropriate with Dr. 10th being the Christmas special. Even though there's another Dr. 10th, but, that was his thing, wasn't it? All the Christmas specials. All the Christmas specials.
Now, there is no Dr. War yet. So.
No, it's a tough... how do you turn that into a children's story?
Well, there's a Dr. 8. Well, I see what you're saying. But, I
don't know. But Dr. War.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Him... And he didn't want to be called Doctor. So,
okay. Well, he just keeps yelling, "Don't call me Doctor," at people.
Maybe that's what it is. We give him the title Dr. War on the front of it, and he complains about it throughout the entirety of the book. I think that sums it up.
Now, we can get into the story, but first, with children's books, a big part is always the illustrations. And so, what do you think of how the doctors have been illustrated in this series?
I mean, first of all, I think they're properly the Mr. Men book illustrations, which I think is great. And they're each of them has something particularly defining, I think, about, except maybe Dr. 13. I'm not sure she's got it, you got the boots, but, and the earrings. Okay, yes.
And that she's the only woman.
Yeah, but with the hair like that, you can't necessarily tell. But, there's something, Dr. Second has his recorder, and Dr. Fifth has his cricket ball, and so I think that there are things that are quite nicely. Dr. Eighth has a stopwatch. I don't know what that's about.
I think it's from the movie poster, but
Oh, right, okay. So yeah. And Dr. Tenth looks just like David Tennant, to be quite honest. There's something about it that is distinctly David Tennant. So yeah, I think, and it's just so quintessential that it harkens back in a beautiful way that I really like.
It would be, and I remember reading an article, but with Adam, or I don't know if he does the whole package, but how you choose like what color. And then what shape? I mean, most of them, are embrace a circle, but not all of them.
Or an oval.
Yeah. You have the triangle for Dr. 10, and then more of a rectangle for 12th. Everyone else is more or less round. Or oval, as you say. So.
Yeah. Noses, Dr. First and Dr. Fourth both have distinct noses. Yeah, and even Dr. Eighth to a little bit. Without being the triangle that Dr. Tenth is.
Mm-hmm. And then is there, I know, we sort of flipped through them all. Are there any particular companions you were interested in seeing?
No, I can remember, though, going through them the first time and being like, I haven't seen these companions, and I don't know who that is. And so I flipped through them again this time because I remembered that. And now I'm like, oh, yeah, Perry. Oh, yeah, Susan. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I knowing more helps, I guess.
Yeah, and of course the one I forgot is the one we're really steeped in right now is Dr. Third. Because with that one, I think that had almost all of them. Like it had...
I was
they're driving Bessie.
Yeah, and I think it had
Sarah
both.
Jane and... Right, that's what I was saying, all three of them, too.
Yeah, and so I think that was one that I remember going, who were these people? And then now I know who they all are, so.
Yeah, Joe Grant. And
we can't
Liz
remember
Shaw.
her name, and Liz Shaw.
Yeah, Liz Shaw's the one who always playing
which we think you'd remember, because her relative shows up in the 13th Doctor, Tim Shaw.
Look at you making jokes.
Right?
I
totally just made a Doctor Who joke. I've come so far, Padawan. Look, I made a Star Wars joke as well. I don't know what it means.
We don't do that.
No idea what it means, but there you go.
But I do like they're all, of course, quirky, and I don't know necessarily who the audience is for these. I mean, we're doing this under the rubric of children's books because that's sort of the presentation that the Mr. Men, Little Miss. Little Miss kind of isn't. Not comfortable with that term. But anyway, yeah. Because, I like how this is also the Dr. Men books. Now, of course, when this was originally written, we didn't know that 13th was going to be a woman. But still,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Mr. Men and Little Miss. It has issues.
But anyway.
But you also have to remember that we just got finished watching The Challenge, the MTV, one of the many MTV series. And every time the announcer called the women girls, Phillip corrected him from the sofa. So,
yeah.
My man is woke. So.
Of course, then it got me saying it, too. I was like, what are they going to do with the girls? Ah, dang it, no, I'm saying
the ladies. I mean,
shoot. But anyway, I thought all the books were very, even if they're kind of really for adults, and I don't know, maybe they are really for children, but, I assume Doctor Who fans are mostly buying it for themselves or to be quirky. Maybe there are people who are actually like, I'll introduce this to my children this way. Because, if the children aren't familiar with Doctor Who, there's either children who are familiar or aren't familiar. If they're not familiar, it's going to be a little odd. But, this is for little kids, too, to both enjoy the pictures, even if they don't understand the story. If they're a little older and can understand the story, they still make it up.
Yeah, and I think Doctor Who fans who have children, this is particularly a lovely thing. We thoroughly enjoy it and have no intention of having children, so...
Are Our cat doesn't even like it.
Our cat does not so much.
Yeah.
Although, I would like the audience to note that we have taken a step forward by Phillip referring to the cat as ours instead of mine.
Well, for tax purposes only.
For tax purposes. You love him. You guys hang out when I'm asleep. And you bond. Don't tell me that you don't.
It's like the challenge. We're both healthy competitors. He is the Johnny Bananas to my Devin.
Oh, God. I'd be really interested to know how many of our audience members get that joke. Because you have to wonder the crossover between Doctor Who and MTV's The Challenge. What's that Venn diagram look like?
Hey, they had UK people on. I don't know if that was the first time or not, but
yeah, no. I mean, there are UK competitors and there are boatloads of American competitors, and hopefully we have people who listen to us from both sides of the ocean, because there are good people on both sides of the ocean. But how much of a crossover there is. I mean, like,
Venn diagram.
Doctor Who and The Floor is Lava.
Right.
I can potentially see a bigger Venn diagram, but Doctor Who and MTV's The Challenge,
yes.
I'm not sure about. But hey, let us know if you're watching it as well.
But I also like, because there's quirky humor to it. There's asides. Like, even the first book, well, I don't know if it was literally the first book, but the Doctor First book I'm thinking of, it's with the Cybermen, and you'll have, like, the Doctor encounters a Cyberman. He's like, well, why are the Cybermen here? And he's in London. He's like, well, they're not here to be tourists. And it's like, shows a picture of them taking pictures of the changing of the guard.
Yeah.
Or they're not here to, it's a little funny aside. It's kind of like a Family Guy-esque breakaway scene or something.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's, certainly part of, the Cybermen are scary. So it's nice to have it couched this way. Same thing, the Weeping Angels, I think, are in the one with River Song, right? Mm-hmm. And so all of these scary scary aliens are not presented that way, but you also have to include them because it's Doctor Who. So
yeah, and I do like the choices of monsters. Some make sense, and some, are just whatever. I mean, because some doctors are more connected with some aliens more than others. Like, for instance, the first Doctor and the Cybermen, we're not going to be like that nerdy about it, but technically he didn't really meet them until he regenerated. So,
but there's a lot of fun hippie stuff in there as well. So there's that.
Second Doctor has the Yeti. Fourth Doctor is just sort of the Daleks. Fifth Doctor is the monster. Or the Master. I won't go through all of them, but like, for instance, like the Eighth Doctor has the Silurians. Maybe there's a big finish we haven't gotten to yet involving the Eighth Doctor and the Silurians. But
and then Doctor 12 has Missy.
Yeah.
Which I think is nice. He doesn't. I'm sad about not having Bill, but it's nice to have Missy. And we thoroughly enjoyed trying out her Scottish accent. So,
and there's actually a great YouTube video, which I'll include in the notes, of her reading this book out loud on YouTube.
Oh, really? Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell me anything, y'all.
We watched it and she's forgotten about it, but that's fine. I was going to let it go over.
That is not a thing that happened. I would remember that. Because I love Missy and Michelle Gomez.
Yeah, but I like it. Like I said, it's one of those things, even from the pictures alone. Because I can remember the images of Mr. Min and Little Miss, like Mr. Happy or Mr. Tickle and Little Miss Sunshine or something.
Mr. Tickle may not be still appropriate. Just for the record.
But I could see the wavy long arms or whatever. But I don't remember the stories at all, of course. But I just remember the imagery is obviously very big. But yeah, it's definitely a treat for kids and adults.
Yes, check it out. Go buy them. They're $1,000 if you buy the whole set. Thereabouts.
No, not
that may be an estimate.
That's right. UK conversion. And toilet paper money.
Coronavirus jokes.
Yeah. Well, the next book we wanted to feature, I feel like this is like reading Rainbow here. The next book we wanted to feature was Doctor Who and the Runaway TARDIS.
Yes.
And this one is kind of interesting as far as because I looked up basic information, so this was released in 2020, but I'm like, well, who wrote it? Because you look at the cover And it says, based on the series by Chris Chibnall and illustrated by Kim Smith, but it doesn't tell you who wrote it. I was like, okay, I mean, did Chris write it? Or I didn't know. Because, children's author and story writer is not necessarily the same thing.
Yes,
and I had to, dig and dig and dig. And it was like, finally I found, the story was devised by editor Rebecca Gyllenhaal. So...
But even devised doesn't give you a whole lot of information.
Maybe it was by committee or something, and nobody just wants to own up to it.
That sounds terrible.
But, I don't know, first, let's go in. Well, you want to describe this book? It's sort of the Little Men, or the Dr. Men's, the little small books, that was sort of its thing. This is more of a proper, large, pop classics.
Hardback, children-sized book.
Cork books, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I liked this one. This was sweet.
Yeah, so this features a little girl named Lizzie.
Who's moved away. Her family has moved to a new town, and so she doesn't have any friends.
So she runs away.
With her peanut butter sandwiches.
And then she encounters the TARDIS, the 13th Doctor's TARDIS.
Yep. And then she drops her peanut butter sandwich into the TARDIS console, obviously.
And the Doctor discovers her when she tries to turn on the TARDIS, and the TARDIS starts going wonky, and so the Doctor has to figure a way to repair the TARDIS, and so
they inevitably end up in outer space.
Yeah, and they're going through time to different places, and so you have some nice illustrations of dinosaurs, of ancient Egypt. Under the Water is a very particularly good illustration there, and then eventually go into an alien planet to help them repair the TARDIS. And, don't spoil anything, but, eventually Lizzie makes friends with the little aliens, and kind of goes from there about how to fix the TARDIS.
And it's brilliant.
Yeah, and it's because it focuses basically on the Doctor and Lizzie. You sort of get, at the end, when they get back home, you do get to see our companions of the 13th Doctor sort of in cameo, I guess, arriving back on the TARDIS as Lizzie is leaving it. But yeah, it just sort of focuses, it's sort of a very good children's books. It's the child is the main character.
And there's a lesson to learn about making new friends and being lonely in new places and not running away from home because you might end up on an alien planet or under the sea, but up. Yeah, I would agree. I think this is a proper little children's book.
And it is, and to at least note these things, Lizzie is a child of color, and then of course the Doctor is a woman, and so you sort of have this sort of the two women in the story here.
I think you can actually use the word girl for Lizzie. I'm okay with that.
I don't want to use more than one word. So. And then, the aliens, I'm sure, could be agendered. Who knows? But anyway, so yeah, I just think it's one of those sort of relatable books, or at least opens up the audience to different books here. But yeah, this is lovely illustrations, and they're big. It's a nice, like I said, I don't know what the actual dimensions are here, but, children's books should be properly big. It's the whole, you turn the page, you read the part, and then you
look at the pictures or turn it around to show it to a group, yeah.
Or the actual, written word is only 3 lines or 4 lines per page. So that way, if you're there, if for the child, if you just want to read to them and show them the pictures, if not, and if they're starting to read on their own, it's nothing that's a little intimidating about how much is on the page there. And of course, text is appropriate for children. Nothing wrong with big words, but, when they're just starting out, you just want to keep them to the basics there. Like vorp, vorp, vorp. That's a basic.
Vorp, vorp. Everybody learns it at a young age.
And I think that is a good part of children's books is that you always have to have weird sounds you have to make in weird voices for the aliens or something like that.
Yeah, and familiar things as well, which I think is nice. As an introduction, if the child in question, and this is definitely, as I say, a children's book, introduction of a lot of new ideas, but before that we get dinosaurs, we get fishies, we get Egyptian, Sphinx, so you've got that sort of familiar to base it in before you go to the alien planet and meet the plorps or whatever they are. Glorps.
It's the planet plorp.
Right.
And the glorp are on the plorp planet.
And they're engineers. Yep, got it.
That's right. Yeah, it was just...
And fun words, clearly.
Exactly, that's what you always need for children's books.
Yes.
I was reading that apparently the alien name of Glorp was just a placeholder, but infamously, like so many projects, it never goes away.
Yeah.
And obviously there's probably a million examples, but I'll always call this the Deep Space Nine effect. So in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, they're creating a show. It's based on a space station. What do we call it? I don't know. Well, just Deep Space Nine. It's the placeholder, and then 7 years later, suddenly that's the name of the series. It's not the most creative thing in the world, but sometimes the placeholder just sticks because it's easier. But
yeah. And the aliens are not in any way intimidating. They have those big old eyes,
small,
and little tiny things, and
very relatable to children.
Yes, they're sort of tribble or adipose.
Well, I don't know if you were doing the plural or something.
Yes, that's what I was doing. Sort of adipose size. So I picture him going.
I just like how they embrace the sort of. It was only just from her first episode, but that sort of iconic look from the 13th Doctor with the goggles on the welding torch.
They're trying to figure out how to fix it,
I just think how that's always sort of kind of an encompassing look for the 13th Doctor. I guess it's always the first impression stick or something.
Yeah.
Some Gallifreyan print there, anyway.
So, it's lovely.
Yeah. So, it's a definitely good recommend. I don't know however much children's books cost, but it wasn't. I mean, I think
for a hardback book, $20 is sort of par for the course.
Yeah, just as good. Yeah. So it's a good story, good illustrations. What more could you want from a children's book? And it's Doctor Who, and that's good too.
Yes.
So do you think that there should be other children's books?
Perpetually.
Who do you think? What's a Doctor that you think would be a good children's book?
Oh God! The 11th Doctor would be amazing as a children's book. 7th Doctor would be good. 2nd Doctor would probably be good.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of ones that it's sort of asking the question, which Doctor is the best with children? And I think even ones you think are like, well, you said 11th Doctor. I'm thinking of the Christmas special, the blah blah blah, and the wardrobe.
Oh yeah,
because he even though he meets the mother, the woman first, he deals with the children sort of one-on-one and shows, because he's sort of very childlike or immature himself. But I think even the 12th Doctor, even though you don't think so, but he met that one, school girl that that went to Clara's school.
Yeah, I mean, she was a little older, but yeah.
But But even a difficult child like that, even though I don't know, I recommend anyone. We don't usually want people to talk to children like that, but he still had a way with her and even the little girl, and I forget if she was on the spectrum, the little girl from the forest of the whatever it was, when all of London turns into a forest, and there's a little girl who's always on her own in the forest, away from the school trip or the field trip that the Doctor encounters when all of them turn to the forest.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's her. I don't know because she always waving at things. But anyway, she can hear things special or something like that. But anyway.
And I think with the 11th Doctor, because he starts with Amelia Pond.
That's true.
She's little.
You almost had a child companion there.
Yes, which would have been amazing.
Yeah, but let us know your children's your pitches of Doctor Who stories for children's books.
Yes. But you have to do them in the style of Ryan George.
And for that, we'll go into the TARDIS library.
Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh,
When you close your eyes,
I go to the library.
Go to the library now.
So I have a book report for this one. Considering we talked about the Weeping Angels last episode,
yes.
I decided to pick a book from our bookshelf. Or at least from my bookshelf. It's communal, though, I think.
If we divorce, I'm getting half of it.
That it's Doctor Who Touched by an Angel by Jonathan Morris.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It works on two different levels. One is that there's an infamous. There was a show in America called Touched by an Angel.
Also, it's inappropriate to be touched without your consent by anything, even celestial bodies.
Right.
I think we should just put that disclaimer in.
Sure. So, would you like to read the synopsis there?
I would. The past is like a foreign country. Nice to visit, but you really wouldn't want to live there. In 2003, Rebecca Whittaker died in a road accident. Her husband Mark is still grieving. He receives a battered envelope posted 8 years earlier containing a set of instructions with a simple message. You can save her. As Mark is given the chance to save Rebecca, it's up to the Doctor, Amy, and Rory to save the whole world. Because this time, the Weeping Angels are using history itself as a weapon.
Yes, this was...
First of all, a couple of things. I feel like I went a little bit Phoebe Judge there.
Okay.
which I just want noted. That was my Phoebe Judge impersonation. Second of all, there is no Oxford comma in this summary, and I'm sadly disappointed by it. Carry on. Tell us about the book.
Yes, this was published in 2011.
It sounds really good. I want to read it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's about to say it's bad, but it's not. It's not.
I did feel that way. I was like, oh, never mind. Sorry.
No. My complaint, which is not a complaint necessarily, but I think there's a tendency in genre writing to, when you're dealing with your genre, whatever, Doctor Who in this case, to introduce a new character and then make that new character the main character. And you're like, well, no, this is about Doctor Who. It should be Dr. Amy and Rory. That's the time setting for this with the 11th Doctor. And so Mark, who is ostensibly the new character for this, as what the synopsis shows, it's mostly his story, which is not necessarily a bad thing. The Doctor and Amy and Rory are there too, trying to defeat the Weeping Angels, but it's sort of his story, and so I almost feel like they spend a little too much time, because I don't want to spoil anything, but I mean, the book starts with his wife dying, ostensibly from the Weeping Angels, in a car accident. And so, as you say, basically he ends up being pushed back in time, from the Weeping Angels. And then when he gets the note from himself saying, here's all the things you can do. So now the Doctor arrives with Amy Roy to stop him from, because, infecting the past, changing the past. And, it kind of goes from there with sort of going throughout Mark's timeline and the Doctor naming Rory, encountering him at different times I'll call him Future Mark. Future Mark, encountering his past timeline, because now he's stuck in the past, but now he's at the same time. So a lot of the Weeping Angels, you're always to the far past, so you don't ever encounter yourself. But this is sort of a near past that they've thrown Mark into, so he can encounter himself, he can encounter his wife, he can encounter his friends. So it's basically like you meet him at college, you meet him in his travels at school, and so as he tries to do that. But anyway, so it's all about the Doctor, because the Weeping Angels are chasing Mark this whole time. And the Doctor's trying to stop Mark from creating some sort of time event that would allow the Weeping Angels to feed and destroy all of time and the usual stuff. But a good thing is that I think, with the Weeping Angels, which is sort of like my metaphor that I used in my Goodreads review, is like, it's like a car chase. It's hard to do a car chase in a book, though I have seen it done once or twice well. But it's hard, because it's a visual medium. But the Weeping Angels, the scariness of them, you think, will that translate in a book? Because, you can't sneak up, in a book. It's just like, the Weeping Angel was there,
And you can't have that weird music that goes, dum dum!
Yeah. Sure. But I think it works. I think they're still scary in the book, which I think is hard to do.
And that's always interesting to look at. I find things that feel like they would only work in film, or to an extent, things that only seem like they'll work in books, seeing the way they transfer, and thinking about The Woman in Black, which is the scariest thing on stage I've ever seen. And how do you make jump scares scary in a play?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, The Woman in Black's bloody terrified. And so I'm fascinated by how do you make things scary on stage? And so then how do you make something like, as you say, the Weeping Angels who move when you stop looking at them? So how can you describe what's happened? It's an interesting idea. So yeah, it'd be interesting to look at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a definite recommend. I think, you could argue, and I don't know, I'm trying to remember when this was written. This was written in 2011. I'm trying to remember when Angels Take Manhattan aired, because I couldn't tell if the book was kind of contradicted a little bit by that episode. It doesn't matter, as far as what the Weeping Angels work or whatever. But that was just like a nibbly point. But I don't think that it would ruin anything at all about it. But yeah, so it's very timey-wimey, but I think that's appropriate given that the Weeping Angels were written by, or are all written by, Stephen Moffat.
And the Weeping Angels are pretty
timey-wimey.
That's where the phrase came from.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, there's a little Back to the Future-y too as well.
That's different. That's different. I don't know if I approve.
But anyway, so it's Touched by an Angel by Jonathan Morse. So from the BBC Books Doctor Who series.
Cool. Check it out.
Yeah. All right. Well, happy birthday, Jessica.
Thank you, baby.
And until next week, enjoy the Doctor's many adventures throughout time and space.
This is BBC Television.